You're listening to Strange by Nature, your guide to the strange, weird, unbelievable, and improbable wonders of the natural world.
Hello everyone, thanks for being here today. I am Kirk Mona and I am joined today by Rachel Ginza and Victoria Thompson. We are all professional naturalists who together have scoured the world for weird and wonderful wonders just to please your mammalian brain's desire for novelty. Isn't that nice? Let's do this.
Hey everyone, just a quick note before we start the show. Wanted to let you know we had a weird little audio issue with this week's show, so you may notice some of our audio tracks sound a little bit funny, but it was some good content. I wanted to make sure it was brought to you, and hopefully we'll be back to the glowing, wonderful audio quality that you are expecting with next week's show. But here we go. Take it away, Rachel.
I do believe that I go first this week.
Indeed you do.
Well, to no one's surprise, we're going back into the ocean for this one, folks.
No, I should have bet it was either going to be that or Australia. Seem to be your two go-tos there. So
they're so good. I have some real good things coming up, though. Just be warned. So we're going down into the pelagic in the open ocean. So about 3,300 feet below the surface is where we're going. Okay, about the middle of the ocean. There's still some light.
Okay.
Okay. This fish is found in every single temperate to tropical ocean, but is rarely seen.
Okay.
The fish that I'm talking about is the Regalicus glacis. Also,
the what?
Yeah, top of my head. I don't know what that is.
The giant oar fish.
Oh, cool. All right.
So it's a ribbon-like narrow fish with thin dorsal fin along its entire length of its body.
Okay.
It has little stubby pectoral fins and long oar-shaped pelvic fins. Okay. It's silvery and with some dark markings, and its fins are actually red.
Mm-hmm.
And potentially is the source of many sea serpent sightings. Now, I sent you both an email.
Okay.
Oh, goody.
Oh, back to the email. Here we go. All right.
The email. It's so fun. There are 3 photos.
I see what you're talking about with the sea serpent.
Really cool.
Wow. So there's a whole bunch of very strong-looking young men.
They're in the
about
Navy.
A dozen of them in a row, all holding up this giant long fish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. At least 13 people are standing shoulder to shoulder holding this fish up.
Uh-huh.
Maybe more. That's a big fish, but it's like you said, very long, like a sort of looks a little bit like a Chinese style dragon with the long kind of tail. Very, very cool.
It's so cool. So it was first described in 1772 by Peter Ascanius. We're gonna go with it. And it is the world's longest bony fish.
Huh.
Yeah, I'll buy that.
Yeah.
The official record is 8 meters, also known as 26 feet.
Wow.
That's a long fish.
A very
Sure is.
long fish.
I'm scrolling down now. It's kind of wacky looking.
It's so bizarre.
Wow.
So there is an unconfirmed report of one that is 11 meters long, or 36 feet.
That's a big fish.
Wow.
Really long fish. Not want to be anywhere near it. So its max weight is thought to be about 600 pounds. So you said
Man.
you said there were 13. Those are 13 young Navy men holding onto this really big fish.
They look like they are struggling a bit. They're not all standing upright.
Uh-huh. When it has been seen, generally speaking, it's reported to be about 3 meters long, or about 9 point, which is still like 9.8 feet.
Still ridiculous.
So
Yeah.
long. That's almost 2 Rachels. So it doesn't have any teeth. It doesn't have a swim bladder, which is bizarre for a fish.
Interesting. Okay.
It has a really short face, and like it has kind of a
Yes, it does.
thing.
Yeah, it
Kind of
looks like it
smushed
was sort of
face,
smushed in, yeah.
kind of like a pug, right?
The pug fish.
Instead of teeth, it has gill rakers that help it eat krill or small crustaceans. So like kind of like baleen almost.
It looks like it has some accessories.
Yes. Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Well, those are the oars, right? Some of them are.
Of course. So its organs are actually concentrated towards its head. So it has this really long body, but most of the organs are near its head. And then
All right.
it actually is scaleless.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Like
No scales. But
sort of like a
it's
catfish.
Right. But it's covered in tubercles, or round nodules.
Oh, tubercles.
Tubercles.
Kind of
There's
like
that word again.
what Darwin's tubercle.
Darwin's tubercle, yeah.
Yeah.
There are lots of
That's
things
a-
in the
that's a
body
callback.
called a tubercle.
That's true. You thought all of those things were strange, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's more.
There's more.
Okay.
The strangest thing is this fish swims vertically.
It does what now? Oh wait, that's why the second picture. I just thought they had turned it that way to like
But
fit.
the
in
picture
the-
was sideways?
Yeah.
No, it swims
It swims
nose
vertically.
up. Yeah.
Nose up, head towards the surface, the tail downward.
That can't be very efficient.
Swimming vertically, it has the really long dorsal fin to help it propel it
Right.
forward, but it's a long, thin ribbon going up and down, just swimming vertically.
Does that dorsal fin, that it looks like in one of the photos I can see it sort of undulating, is that to move up and down, or can it also move like forward through the water?
It can move forward through the water as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. That's just utterly bizarre.
Yeah.
I see now even more why it might be mistaken for a sea serpent.
Yeah, you're out, you're an old timey sailor man, and you look out, you see this pug, small, short snouted face of a fish just poking up out of the surface of the ocean and popping back down. I would think it was a sea serpent as well.
Well, especially if you caught one then. And I think it is fair to call this a sea monster regardless.
It is
it just
a
is.
real-life one.
It just is. Yeah.
Right? It's super
Awesome.
harmless though, because like it eats krill and crustaceans. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I have for you both today.
Super cool. Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah.
That is cool. Definitely go online and check that out for yourself. Very, very cool looking animal.
Yeah, I will be sure to post a photo to our social media.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Check that out.
Yeah. After the break, it'll be Victoria.
Hey everyone, Kirk here with a thank you to our supporters on Patreon. We recently started the Society of Strange, which is a club for supporters on Patreon. Members get exclusive bonus content, a water bottle sticker, and at the highest level of support, you can get our studio voicemail, so you can leave us a message that might even end up on the show. You can find us at patreon.com/strangebynature. We'll see you there. Now back to the show.
We are back, and I want to talk about when I was a kid growing up on the East Coast, how we would sometimes go to a coastal area in the summer. And I would be playing on the beach, and I was often more into finding like rocks and sea glass and looking at the seaweed and looking for shells and crabs than I was into swimming. Is there any wonder I became a naturalist?
No, not at all. Because I did the same thing. This sounds way more fun.
Yeah, I mean, I like swimming too, but that other stuff is more interesting.
But there could be sea monsters if you're swimming, so.
Well,
Right.
this kind of brings me to my subject. There was one beach object. There was one beach object that I would always keep my distance from. So at some times and locations, there would be these helmets. It's like a big, dull olive brown shell that looks kind of like the top half of a military helmet in the front. And then there's a hinge, and in back, the edge of the shell is fringed in these scary looking spikes, and then there's the tail. Big, pointy, tapering spike that's nearly as long as the whole body. Oh, this really creeped me the heck out.
There, it looks real scary.
Yep.
It's not, but it looks real scary.
The worst part is if you found one that had been turned over.
Horrifying.
Oh, the legs.
Yeah.
The legs,
there's
right?
no sort of a head or mouth, just a whole lot of wiggly, jointed, crabby-looking eggs that end in these small little pointy claws. Ugh.
Straight out of H.G. Wells. Like, ugh.
Yeah. And later when I was a teenager in high school, we studied, there's this famous poem by T.S. Eliot called The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, and there was this line, and I read it at that moment, and ever since it's reminded me of this creature. I quote, "I should have been a pair of ragged claws scuttling across the floors of silent seas." Thank you, T.S. Eliot. I was terrified of these things. I'm talking...
For those who don't know yet, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about the Atlantic horseshoe crab, Limulus polyphemus.
Yay.
Yes, it is one of 4 species of horseshoe crab that are all fairly similar looking. The others are all found in Asia. They are actually fascinating and important creatures, and completely harmless to humans, I will add. They just look creepy as heck. But there are lots of interesting things about them, too many to talk about, in fact, so I'm going to just focus on a few. One, it is a living fossil. Creatures looking very similar to today's horseshoe crabs go back in the fossil record 480 million years. And that is
awesome.
further than the coelacanth, for those of you keeping track at home.
Oh, man.
They're arthropods, so they're in the same big group as insects and arachnids and crustaceans, but they're in the subphylum Chelocerata, so that includes arachnids. So although they're called a crab, they're actually more closely related to spiders.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Explains the legs.
Yeah. One of the interesting things about them is that they are extremely important to science, and not just in a we like to study this organism kind of way. We need their blood.
No, empiric at all.
Yes. So, like mollusks, horseshoe crabs have blue blood. Our blood is red because it uses an iron compound called hemoglobin to carry oxygen, but their blood uses something called hemocyanin, which is a copper compound, and it turns blue. And it also contains a special kind of cell called an amoebocyte, which it's a part of their immune system, basically. And these amoebocytes are used to make something called LAL. And LAL is super important because it is used to detect bacterial toxins. In other words, bacterial contamination in drugs and biological products.
That's super important.
Yeah, it's absolutely vital for the safety of medicines and other products that we use all the time. So to get the blood, horseshoe crabs are harvested and bled. Now, this doesn't necessarily kill them, and they're returned to the water, but some of the crabs do die during and after this procedure, sometimes as much as 10 to 30% of
That's not great.
Yeah,
That's
not great.
a little too high.
So even though they're fairly abundant overall, there is some concern about the populations in some locations. And they're also used as bait in some fisheries. They get cut up for bait. And this is of concern not only for themselves, but also it's a really great example of how intertwined life is on this planet. Because the horseshoe crabs, so they mostly live in shallow coastal waters, but they actually have to come up on beaches to breed and lay their eggs. That's why I would encounter them on the beach as a child. So each female can lay tens of thousands of eggs, and these eggs are a really important food source for birds especially. So in particular, Kirk probably knows this.
It's pretty well known example in the bird nerd world.
Yeah, there's a bird called the red knot. It's a short bird, so it looks a little like a sandpiper. And
they're so cute.
They're so cute.
Are they red?
There's not like a cardinal red.
Oh, okay.
British.
There's some kind of that rusty color on there.
But this bird breeds above the Arctic Circle in Canada, and it spends the non-breeding season in Tierra del Fuego at the tip of South America. So this is one of the longest migrations in the world, and the Delaware Bay area is their most important feeding stopover in the spring, and this is also a breeding ground for horseshoe crabs. And the red knots feed largely on the horseshoe crab eggs because it's like a soft, easy to digest food that they can eat. And their migration is exquisitely timed to coincide with the crab's breeding. So their survival is completely dependent on the horseshoe crabs. So it's just crazy to think about the way everything can be so interconnected. You would never expect this random bird to be dependent on these weird-looking spider relatives, but they are.
Yeah, that's great. Like, it makes sense, just because of how interconnected, like you were saying, everything is so interconnected. But, like, that's absolutely crazy that one species of bird is so dependent on this, on the eggs of these horseshoe crabs, just so it can actually make it through its insane migration.
Yes.
Right, and only for this, like, one tiny bit of each year, like that food source has to be there at that time for this tiny little window. It's also, as you said, so interdependent.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So that's my story for today.
I love it.
Awesome, thanks.
I love horseshoe crabs.
And after the break, we will have Kirk.
Welcome back. So, Victoria, you mentioned red knots.
Yes, I did.
Which sort of brought up the fact that I'm a bit of a, shall we say, a bird nerd.
You can say that.
A bird nerd, a bird freak.
Really?
I love me the burbs. I'm a huge birder. Now, I did a topic. Well, you would never have guessed, but listeners may not know that. I mean, I did talk about birds last week, but I think that was the first time I've done a story about birds on the show. Which is astounding for how much, like, I'm really into birds. I think maybe because I love birds so much that I don't often think of them as that strange. But let me be clear,
cool.
There's some really weird, strange stuff about birds. So get ready. The floodgates are open, and I'm going to try to rectify the dearth of avafaunal topics here on the show. So here goes. This week, I'm talking about the red-billed quailea. I will point out there's a number of different ways to pronounce the name of this bird. I'm just going with quailea. It's also known as the red-billed weaver in some places, and I'm afraid many of our listeners won't have seen this bird unless you happen to live in or have visited specific parts of Africa. I can try to explain the range. I can try to explain the range the best I can. So picture like a narrow band running east to west, just below the Sahara Desert. Okay,
So
that's kind of one area they're found.
Northern bit, like there's the hump with the puzzle piece. Where South America was in. It's over by Guinea and
do go
Mali
on.
And that area, yes.
Yeah, so like kind of just kind of coast to coast, like below the desert there, right? They're also found in a wide swath from the southern tip of Africa up the east side of the continent, where they then connect up with that east-west swath. So basically, they live anywhere where it's not too dry, not too forested, not too cold, or not too high of an elevation.
They sound like Goldilocks.
kind of everywhere else. Very much so. And they're a bird of the open country. All right. So our red-billed qualia are about the size of a large sparrow. And aside from some head coloration on the males, they are kind of tanned and striped a bit like a sparrow too, but they're not sparrows. Like one of the common names suggests, they are weaver birds. So they weave nests together out of grasses. And they are really impressive domed spherical structures about 6 to 7 inches in diameter.
Cool.
None of this is particular. Yeah,
That's
cool
really fun.
for sure. Not particularly strange. All right.
I mean,
There
the
is-
fact that birds can weave with their bills and their sharp feet in and out to make a nest, I think that's amazing. That's so weird.
Okay, so maybe again, because I'm so used to birds, I'm underselling it here. It is pretty strange, but there is an interesting quirk about them as far as coloration goes. While it is common in the bird world for males to change color during breeding season, in these birds, the female has a coloration change. Now, I'm very carefully saying coloration and not plumage, because what changes isn't the feathers, but rather their beak color.
What?
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Yeah, which is pretty
Beaks
cool.
can change color?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
During breeding season, the
What?
usually red bill of the female turns yellow, and the male bill stays the same, but they do have more striking plumage in general year-round, which is typical in the bird world. So this may be interesting, but I also, again, don't think it's particularly strange. It may be, I mean, obviously Rachel was like, what? But
I'm
we have
still
birds.
thinking about it.
We have birds, Rachel, right in your backyard, like goldfinches, American goldfinches, and American robins.
They go
That
from
also,
black, don't they? To like,
they also change their bills seasonally, yeah.
Yeah.
So bills are made of see-through keratin with bone underneath, but there's a thin layer of living tissue that can change color based on hormones and diet. So many birds do change the color of their beaks to indicate readiness or fitness to breed. And this is one of those birds that does that.
That's pretty cool.
It is, but like I said, that isn't strange enough for me. So let me get back to that nest for a moment. If you have ever stood under a tree where you know a bird is nesting, you may have struggled to find the nest, right? You ever
It's
had
so
that experience?
hard when there's lots
Yes.
of leaves.
Yeah, really hard. Well, that probably won't be an issue here if you were to go to Africa and try to find one of the nests of these birds.
Okay.
I want you to imagine you're standing under maybe an acacia or a blackthorn tree, straining up through the branches, and you're trying to see one of the, let's say, 6,000 nests in the tree.
Oh my gosh, that's so many nests. On just one tree?
There can be 6,000 nests in one tree.
Oh my god.
Now, I don't know, that was, they are colony nesters, and this was one case where someone actually went through and counted all the counted one tree to see how many there were.
And like,
Right,
have
I mean,
to
it could-
start recounting.
There's certainly trees that have less. There could be trees that have more. So that sounds enormous, right?
Are they connected
would-
at all, or are they individual
that-
nests?
Individual nests. Okay, now, does that sound like, that sounds like a large colony, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah.
But unfortunately, you're thinking on the wrong scale,
No.
because the colonies don't consist of just one tree.
Oh, Kirk,
Oh my.
don't do this to me. Why would you do this to me?
Red-billed qualia nest at a density of 12,000 nests per acre.
My brain
Which
just
again
broke.
tells you obviously that most trees don't have 6,000, right? Acre is about the size of a football field, so it's about 12,000 nests per football field.
That's so
Which
many
is-
nests.
Keep in mind that's 2 parent birds per nest
Oh my god.
on an average of 3 babies per clutch. So by my math, that's about 60,000 birds per acre, which is a lot. Now you say,
that's a lot of birds.
Kirk, that's an enormous number of birds, right? But I'm just getting started.
Oh my god.
I said 12,000 nests per acre.
Uh-huh.
I never said colonies only cover 1 acre.
Oh my god.
Oh no.
Why?
Red-billed qualia colonies typically average in the millions of nests. Millions of nests.
Millions with an M?
Millions with an M. Now keep in mind that means multi-million number of birds.
Oh my
Because it's not
god.
just one bird per nest.
There's more than one colony too, isn't there?
Oh, yeah. So annually, there's, of course, a large increase in the number of birds post-breeding season. The post-breeding
Really?
population
Who would've guessed?
yeah, who would have guessed, right? The post-breeding population of red-billed qualia is thought to be 1.5 billion, with a B, billion birds, which makes them the most numerous bird species on the planet.
Oh my god.
And you probably had never even heard of them before.
Wow.
Nope. Mm-mm.
They're like the passenger pigeon of Africa.
That's
In a
insane.
way, yeah, except there are some big differences. Passenger pigeons partially were wiped out because they would only have one egg per nest. These birds do have many, I said up to 3 eggs per clutch, and are probably not quite as, I don't think, quite as picky. And so they're doing real well.
Really?
being-
With
be- yeah, being-
a billion birds.
1.5, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Being so numerous is actually problematic, as you can imagine. It takes an enormous amount of food to feed 1.5 billion birds, and they are quite a problem for farmers. If they descend on your fields, it can actually be disastrous. They've been called feathered locusts. They will eat green seeds before they're ready for harvest, and there is essentially nothing farmers can do to stop them from just stripping their fields bare. Their diet does also include insects, but when we're talking about 1.5 billion birds, the number of seeds they eat is just astronomical and can really add up. I did find one source that estimated that one colony that consisted of 5 million adults, so, just a small colony, 5 million adults and 5 million chicks consumed roughly 29,000 pounds of insects.
Oh my god.
Wow.
And 2,200,000 pounds of grass seeds during the breeding cycle.
Wow.
I can't even.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Being
so
so
much.
plentiful, they are naturally a source of food, a food source themselves. Many animals eat them, including humans. Humans actually collect hundreds of millions of birds each year for food. But scientists who have studied this have found that the harvest of hundreds of millions of them annually essentially has no impact on the populations, because there's so
That's
many and they
astounding.
reproduce so fast that people can literally be harvesting hundreds of millions of them, and they're like, nope, that's sustainable. So
That's
it is
insane.
pretty amazing. They're just an amazing bird, and that's what I wanted to share with you on today's show.
Brain hurt.
Super cool.
Wait, do they have multiple clutches a year, or is it just one?
I did not find that, and that's a great question. I know from just experience with birds around here, it can vary a lot in terms of like food availability and weather and things like that, as to whether or not birds will do multiple clutches of eggs in a year. I did not specifically find any information on whether or not this species does multiple clutches, but that would certainly, just imagine if you take those numbers and double them, you can. You're talking a lot of birds. So it wouldn't surprise me if they maybe did, but I could see how they could have this kind of number even with just a single clutch, because there's so many to start with,
Okay. Alright, well, my brain hurts. Thanks, Kurt.
Yeah.
Good, well, take a nap, rest up, and we'll see everybody next week.
See you next
Thanks,
week.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, everyone, for listening to today's show. Be sure to subscribe. New episodes drop every Wednesday, and we love sharing this strange world with all of our listeners. If you would be so kind as to leave us a 5-star review, that would be great. It lets other lovers of the strange discover the show. You can reach out to us on social media by searching for Strange by Nature Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can send us an email as well. Our address is contact@strangebynaturepodcast.com. If you want more information about the show, you can also check out our website, which is strangebynaturepodcast.com. Until next week, get outside, stay curious, and embrace the strange.